My name is Ben Salama, and I work for Accenture. So I run our mobile practice in the UK and Ireland. We work with probably about 50 or 60 of Accenture's largest clients in the UK and Ireland on a cross-industry basis, so covering all of Accenture's industries. And my team brings mobile solutions to those clients, and we work with them to implement mobile solutions. We work in the advisory and consultancy space. We do a lot of apps development, B2B, B2C, B2E, hence my involvement here, and then a whole set of managed services and transactional mobility solutions like mobile banking, mobile commerce, and connected home, and all sorts of instant connected stuff. So what I'll be talking about here is just really some of our experiences and some of our knowledge. I mean, given the customer base that we have and the sort of work we do, I think we've got some pretty good insight into what customers are thinking about and what our what our clients are wanting to do and how they're spending their money today in enterprise mobility, and just wanted to sort of share some of that information with you. So we run annual surveys of our clients and our sort of CIO base, and both across IT in general and in mobility in specifically. And I think the sort of results, I hope you can see those slides and the colours are okay, but I think these are results from sort of 400 interviews with 400 CIOs that we conducted at the back end of 2013. And I think what you're seeing really is probably what I think all of us understand intuitively, that clearly mobility is gaining significantly in importance and spend amongst CIOs in the UK and Ireland. This is on a global basis. As you can see, sort of an increase substantially for sort of IT spend aimed towards mobility, and an expectation really that mobility is going to sort of drive value, drive new opportunities, I think, as much as anything else, and have a really positive impact in organizations' business. So that's what CIOs tell us. But I think, as I'll show in a moment, I think there's some reality, some difference, I think, in our experience in terms of the reality of how that manifests itself in the market. And what is it that they sort of spend a lot of their time worrying about and thinking about and trying to really understand? Well, what we find is some of the big issues that organizations and enterprises are thinking about right now are the following. So first of all, I'd say with respect to enterprise mobility, it's really big issues around how do I get mobile devices into my organization? How do I do that in a secure way and in a productive way? So should we be should we be implementing BYOD policies? Should we not? How does that work? Big implications there for organizations in terms of the trade-off between personal privacy and the need to be able to manage and control devices. So, can you successfully wipe somebody's data if they were to leave the company, but not destroy their Angry Birds scores, for example, because that could be offensive to them, and so on. So some big issues around that. How do you deliver all of these services securely? What sort of solutions are out there for mobile device management? Those are sort of the things that they're thinking about. The tablet in the enterprise, I think, is a big issue. I mean, I think it's remarkable if you think about the penetration that Apple has achieved in the enterprise with tablets, nearly exclusively sort of driven top down. I mean, they have been really successful in more or less bypassing CIO organizations completely, going straight to the business, going straight to executives, and really playing on the fact that most of those people own iPhones or iPads in their own personal lives, and they want to bring that sort of same experience into the business. So, I mean, they've been hugely successful, and I think they've caused major nightmares and major headaches for most CIO organizations in the process. But I think the tablet is emerging much more than the phone. I mean, the tablet is emerging really as the mobile device of choice for enterprise applications. We're seeing this more and more, and that's sort of typically the target that most of our customers are working towards. Interestingly enough, I'd say 9 out of 10, their view is that we'll target Apple devices, so iPad is sort of still the number one choice, I would say, in the enterprise. Microsoft struggling really to create really momentum with its products and its Nokia devices. So I think from a sort of a B2E space, those are sort of the big issues that people are looking at. A whole bunch of interesting things happening in the area of connected devices. So I mean, we see a lot, of course, in the area of wearables and things like that in the consumer space, but in the enterprise space, we're sort of really looking now at things like connected medical devices that companies are trying to launch, connected home propositions, and so forth. So the whole area of apps is very critical. And then we're seeing, I think we'll start to see now over the next couple of years, this whole, I think the next big trend really is going to be all around mobile finance and the mobile device as a financial wallet and as a vehicle for doing that, especially if Apple sort of enters into this market, which the suggestion is that they will in the near future. IDC did a study last year in which they looked at really the sort of changing trends between developers developing for B2C applications for the consumer and the development of B2E applications for the enterprise. And they sort of drew this picture and a whole bunch of reasons why companies are moving to develop enterprise applications, and they sort of drew this picture and this analysis that basically was saying, well, really, the real growth in the market over the next few years is going to be in the area of business to employee and business to business. To some extent, I sort of do believe that, and we've seen that reflected in our business. However, I would say that I don't think it's anywhere near as dramatic as what's going on here. Our experience has been that I think the industry as a whole totally underestimated the pace at which consumers were switching to mobile for significant amount of interactions. So I mean, I guess you probably all saw Facebook's financial announcements last couple of weeks ago. I mean, they've now crossed 1 billion mobile users. Nearly 60% of their revenue is coming through mobile. So I think what we've seen a number of our clients actually delay investment in enterprise applications for mobile and switch money to the consumer channel. So I think going back 2 years ago, I spoke to a lot of companies whose view was, well, mobile is, it's another channel, just like the internet. I need to have mobile, but it wasn't sort of seen as the key digital channel. And I think that's changed, and I think we've seen money shift. So definitely, I mean, our enterprise business is growing in leaps and bounds, but I would say it's not at the expense of the consumer business at all. So where are people actually spending their money, and what are the sort of areas they're working on? I think these are sort of the key category areas that we see as where organizations are building mobile enterprise applications. So workforce management, historically, I mean, this is where mobility really started, right? I mean, it's the blue collar, it's the engineer in the street, your utility company or your mobile operator or whatever. So it's workforce management, it's the scheduling and delivering all of the services that they need on a mobile device. HR management, we're seeing a lot of interest here around things like mobile learning. I'd say it's one of the big use cases that we're seeing right now in the area of HR management, performance management and things like that. Financial management, so everything to do with requisitions, approvals, anything that sort of is basically a problem in getting, your boss to sign off on or getting people to approve because they're not in the office. You can sort of do that more efficiently through a mobile solution. General employee productivity, I'm talking about things like time and expense management, timesheets, for example. Salesforce automation, I'd say one of the very, very strong use cases. And then everything to do with management information and BI. I mean, because this is really, again, an executive-driven thing. So we're building a lot of dashboards for executives and for organizations. So this is the sort of the key areas. Now, the thing about it is they're not all equal in terms of where people are seeing real strong returns of investment. And the reality is, I think that what we see is that there's quite a strong link between, if you like, the complexity of the application in many sense. And when I say complexity, I'm talking about not just the complexity of the application sitting on the device, but I'm talking about the complexity of the application in terms of its ability to sort of reach back deep into the enterprise and access the data that is sitting there. So I think there's a strong correlation between the complexity of the application and the business value that's associated with it. So what in terms of where are the hard-hitting, strong return on investment business cases, very much still in the area of workforce management. Salesforce management, absolutely sort of killer business case generally, I'd say. Operational productivity, so typically we're talking about things like approval processes and things like that. They're employee enablement, that's where you're looking at your mobile learning. And then I'd say way down at the bottom of the tree are things like time recording, expense management. I mean, I have met so many companies who just who love all this sort of stuff, and because it's intuitive, everybody wants it, right? Everybody wants it as a sort of as a cool and easy thing to have. But the reality is the business cases are really poor against these. And when people sit down and actually work out what it's going to cost them to build and deploy these solutions, they back off and they don't do it. And we see that. So I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be the high value business cases that are driving enterprise mobility into organizations, and then when the right infrastructure is in place, these others will start to flow through because the incremental cost of creating them will be very low. Okay, so is there an opportunity for somebody to get into the enterprise app space and build some solutions? Absolutely, of course there is. But what do you need to have? Well, first of all, enterprise applications need to have consumer experiences. I think we're at a point now where we have such high expectation of what we expect from our mobile applications. There is no way that you can deliver anything other than consumer experience for a mobile app in the enterprise. It won't get used, quite simply. Second thing is, I think there's a lot of new business models available around cloud-based applications, around the delivery of the solution as a service on a transactional and pay-as-you sort of go basis. I think the large enterprise apps companies, historical enterprise apps companies, the SAPs of this world, the Oracles of this world, they are really have struggled with this because people do not want to pay the price points that are being created or that are historically have been paid for these sort of things. Customization, clearly, every large corporation, however much they say, every timesheet's the same, every sort of time expense form looks the same. The reality is everybody wants to customize it. If you go into this market, you're probably having to support some sort of BYOD solution, which means you need significant platform breadth in terms of your solutions. They need to run across a wide range of products. And in the end, people will only pay for things that are really going to drive value for them, and you need some really strong business cases. Good. I've overrun, I apologize. I'm looking at your little timer here, but I probably didn't talk about Accenture for more than a minute anyway. That's the only good thing I did. Right, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.